His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Chike gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles had gone pale, and still, his hands shook. The bus was moving. The fog outside was so thick he could barely see 10 feet ahead. Cemetery Road stretched into nothing but darkness and grey mist. And behind him, 40 passengers. Silent. Not a cough. Not a whisper. Not a single breath. He had been driving for 20 minutes and not one of them had moved. Not one of them had spoken. Not one of them was alive. You're probably wondering how a good man ends up driving the dead through the fog at 1 in the morning. Let me take you back. 24 hours earlier, Chike had a much bigger problem than ghosts. He had nothing to feed his daughter. The sun came up on a Thursday morning and found Chike already awake, sitting at the edge of his bed in the dark, staring at the floor. He had been awake since 3 a.m. Not because of nightmares. Because of numbers. The rent was 3 months behind. The landlord had stopped knocking politely, now he just came and stood outside the door and waited. Ada's medicine cost 4,000 naira a week, and Chike had not been able to fill her prescription in 11 days. 11 days. He could hear her breathing from the next room. That small, ragged sound she made when her chest was tight. He had learned to count her breaths. On good nights she breathed 16 times a minute. On bad nights, 12. Last night had been a 12-breath night. His wife Ngozi came out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea and no sugar. They had run out of sugar 4 days ago. She sat beside him on the bed and didn't say anything. She didn't need to. They had already said all the words. The silence between them had become its own language. Chike drank his tea standing up. Then he picked up his keys and walked to the motor park. He didn't tell Ngozi he had no plan. She already knew. The motor park was loud and smelled like engine oil and yesterday's food. Chike stood at the edge of it and watched other drivers load their buses, Lagos, Benin, Asaba, Onitsha. He had no bus of his own. He was what they called a spare driver. When a bus owner needed someone to cover a route, they called a spare driver. It was unpredictable work. Some days you made good money. Some days you stood in the sun for 8 hours and went home with nothing. That Thursday was a nothing day. By noon, 3 drivers had been called ahead of him. By 4 p.m., 2 more. By the time the sun started to fall, Chike was sitting on an overturned crate with his elbows on his knees, watching the light die. He called Ngozi at 6 p.m. Nothing yet, he said. She didn't answer for a moment. Then she said, Ada's breathing is worse. He closed his eyes. I'm still here, he said. I'll find something. He didn't know that was true. But what else do you say to a woman who married you because she believed in you? If you've ever had to say, I'll figure it out, when you didn't know how, this story is for you. Keep watching. The motor park emptied slowly. By 11 p.m., most of the drivers had gone home or gone to find food. The generator lights flickered once, twice, then settled into a dim yellow glow that made everything look older and sadder than it was. Chike was still there. He told himself he was waiting for a late call. He knew, somewhere underneath that he was simply afraid to go home empty-handed again. Afraid of the sound of Ada's breathing. Afraid of Ngozi's eyes, not angry eyes, which would have been easier to bear, but patient eyes. Eyes that had decided to keep believing in him no matter what. That was when the old man sat down beside him. Chike hadn't heard him approach. One moment the bench was empty. The next moment the man was there, old, very old, wearing a grey agbada that seemed too clean for a motor park at midnight. His face was weathered and still, and his eyes were sharp in a way that felt wrong. Not dangerous. Just knowing. Like he had seen this moment before. Like he had been waiting for it. You are a driver, the old man said. It was not a question. Yes, Chike said carefully. I need a driver. Tonight. One job. 1 million naira. The number landed like a stone dropped into still water. Chike felt the ripples move through his entire body. 1 million naira. Ada's medicine. 3 months of rent. Food. A future. What kind of job? Chike asked. His voice was steady. He was proud of that. The old man looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "There is a bus. Black. Parked near the old bridge at the end of Cemetery Road. You will go there at midnight. You will open the doors at exactly 1 a.m. You will drive the passengers to their destination. You will not speak to them. And you will not, under any circumstances, look in the rearview mirror." Silence. Chike should have stood up and walked away. He knew that. The job was strange. The hour was wrong. The old man had appeared from nowhere. Every instinct in a sensible man's body was screaming. But Chike thought about Ada's breathing. 12 breaths a minute. And he said, "What happens if I look in the mirror?" The old man's expression didn't change. "You become one of the passengers," he said quietly. "And you never go home." Chike said yes. God forgive him. He said yes. The walk to Cemetery Road took 20 minutes. Chike told himself, the whole way there, that it was probably just a normal job with a strange employer. Rich people were eccentric. Maybe the man was transporting something valuable and wanted secrecy. Maybe the "don't look in the mirror" rule was some kind of test. Maybe the whole thing was perfectly explainable. He kept telling himself that until he saw the bus. It was black. Not dark gray. Not navy. Black, the way the inside of a closed coffin is black, the total absence of light. It was parked exactly where the old man had said, just past the old bridge, and it was the most expensive bus Chike had ever seen in his life. Long low. Silent. There were no markings on it. No route number. No name. Just that deep, absolute blackness and the faint smell of, he couldn't name it. Something cold. Something that made the back of his throat tighten. He stood outside it for a full minute. Then he thought of Ada. 12 breaths a minute. He got in. The interior was immaculate. White seats, white walls, interior lighting that was soft and pale and somehow too quiet for its own brightness. Chike sat in the driver's seat and immediately noticed the rearview mirror, large, perfectly positioned, angled to show him every single seat in the bus. He stared at it for a moment. Then he took off his jacket and tied it carefully over the mirror. Completely covered. Not a sliver of reflection visible. If the temptation wasn't there, he couldn't fail. He was a practical man. He checked his phone. 12:43 a.m. He waited. The next 60 seconds changed everything. Don't look away. While he waited, Chike repeated the rules quietly to himself, the way he used to memorize scripture as a child. Rule 1, open the doors at exactly 1 a.m. Not 12:59. Not 1:01. Exactly 1 a.m. Rule 2, do not speak to the passengers. No matter what they say. No matter what they ask. Silence. Rule 3, never look in the rearview mirror. Never. He repeated them 3 times. He was about to repeat them a 4th time when he noticed something. The bus had gone cold. Not cool, cold. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees in the space of 30 seconds. Chike could see his own breath now. Little white clouds in the pale interior light. He looked at his phone. 12:59 and 40 seconds. His hand moved to the door lever. He watched the seconds tick. 12 hours 59 minutes and 55 seconds, 12 hours 59 minutes and 56 seconds. 12 hours 59 minutes and 57 seconds. The cold intensified. Something outside the bus moved in the fog. Shapes. Slow, drifting shapes. 12 hours 59 minutes and 58 seconds, 12 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds. 1 hour. Chike pulled the lever. The doors opened with a sound like an exhaled breath, a long, slow release of air. And then they began to board. The first one was an old woman. She wore white. Not the white of hospital gowns or wedding dresses, a white that seemed to produce its own faint light, like moonlight held inside fabric. She moved slowly, deliberately, the way very old people move when every step costs something. She did not look at Chike. She simply walked to a seat in the middle of the bus and sat down without a sound. The second was a man in his 40s. Then a young woman. Then a child, small, maybe 6 years old, dressed in that same glowing white. The child looked at the back of Chike's head for a long moment as it passed his seat. He felt that gaze on his neck like a cold finger. He did not turn around. They kept coming. One by one. Slow and silent and cold. Chike kept his eyes forward and counted under his breath the way the old man had told him, 40 passengers. He reached 39. Then 40. The last one boarded, and a long pause followed. Then the doors closed. And 40 people sat behind Chike in perfect silence. He put the bus in gear. He drove. Nobody breathed. Not one of them. Not once. Chike realized this at the 5-minute mark and spent the next 10 minutes trying to unhear it. The fog thickened as he drove. Cemetery Road had never been a friendly street. It was old, poorly lit, lined on both sides by trees that had grown so tall and so close together their branches formed a ceiling overhead. In the daytime it was gloomy. At 1 a.m. with 40 dead people on your bus, it was something else entirely. The whisper started at the 50-minute mark. Not loud. Not voices, exactly, more like the sound a room makes when many people are thinking the same thought at the same time. A collective breath that wasn't a breath. Chike's skin rose in goosebumps from his wrist to his shoulders. He kept driving. Then one voice separated from the rest. Driver. Low. Male. Coming from somewhere in the middle of the bus. Chike's jaw tightened. Rule 2. Do not speak to the passengers. He did not answer. Driver. I know you can hear me. Silence from Chike. Eyes forward. Hands steady on the wheel. He thought of Ada. He thought of 1 million naira. He thought of Ngozi's patient eyes. Just look in the mirror, the voice said. Almost gentle. Just once. We only want you to see us. Is that so terrible? To be seen. Chike pressed his lips together and said nothing. More voices joined the first. Murmuring, overlapping, washing over him like cold water. Some of them were angry. Some sounded sad. One of them was crying, a sound so raw and human that Chike's chest ached with it, because whatever these things were, that crying sounded real. It sounded like grief that had nowhere to go. He kept driving. He's holding on. But the worst is still coming. Stay with me. He heard it at the 20-minute mark. Small. Familiar in a way that hit him somewhere below conscious thought, somewhere in the part of a parent that is always listening for one specific sound, no matter what else is happening. Daddy. The wheel jerked under his hands. He caught it. Corrected. His eyes burned. Daddy, I'm cold. It was Ada's voice. Exact. Perfect. The specific music of his daughter's voice when she was sick and afraid in the night and she needed him. He had heard that voice 10,000 times. He would know it in a hurricane. Daddy, why won't you look at me? A sound escaped Chike's throat, something between a sob and a groan, and he pressed his fist to his mouth to stop it. His eyes were burning so badly he could barely see the road. Tears ran down his face and he let them run because stopping them would have required a hand off the wheel, and he did not trust himself to touch the mirror. Because his jacket was still over the mirror. And somewhere, in whatever was left of his rational mind, he knew that was not Ada. Ada was at home. Ada was breathing 12 breaths a minute in her bed with Ngozi beside her. Ada was alive. Ada did not board a black bus at a dead bridge at 1 in the morning. But his heart did not care about rational minds. Daddy. Just look. Please. He was shaking. The whole bus seemed to be breathing now, not the passengers, but the bus itself, expanding and contracting around him, the lights flickering, the temperature dropping further. Ice was forming at the corners of the windshield. His tears were cold on his cheeks. He thought, I could look. Just quickly. Just to prove to myself that it isn't her. Just to see. His right hand moved 6 inches toward the mirror. He stopped it. He thought of the old man's voice, you become one of the passengers. He put his hand back on the wheel. He drove. The iron gates appeared out of the fog like something rising from underwater, slow, massive, inevitable. Chike brought the bus to a stop. His hands were still shaking, but he was there. He had made it. He had driven 40 dead souls through the fog without breaking a single rule. His jacket was still over the mirror. He had not spoken once. The doors had been opened at exactly 1 a.m. He was going to survive this. He pulled the lever. The doors opened. The silence that followed was total. Then he heard them begin to move, that same slow, deliberate shuffling, one at a time, filing past him toward the front of the bus. He kept his eyes forward, watching the iron gates in his windshield. One by one they passed through his peripheral vision. White fabric. Cold air. That same quiet that was not the quiet of living things. He counted. 38. 39. He waited for 40. The bus was silent. 40, he said quietly to himself. He reached for the door lever. That was when the hand landed on his shoulder. The cold came first. Not the cold of the night air or the fog, something older and deeper than weather. A cold that settled into the bone. Then the grip. Fingers. He could feel each one individually, the way you feel things in nightmares when all the nerve endings are heightened and nothing is dull. He did not turn around. He could not have turned around if he tried. The voice came from directly behind his right ear. Low. Hollow. Completely without emotion, the way a fact is stated by someone who has already accepted it. You forgot something. Chike's mouth was open but no sound came out. The fare, the voice said. Every ferryman must collect a fare. That is the oldest rule. Older than the 3 he told you. The one he didn't mention. The grip on his shoulder tightened. Look at me, the voice said. And collect what you are owed. Chike sat completely still. The fog pressed against the windshield. The gates waited. And the 41st passenger, the one who had never boarded, the one who had always been there, waited too. At 4:30 that morning, Ngozi's phone rang. A man from the motor park. He had found her number in Chike's old locker. The black bus was parked at the edge of Cemetery Road, engine off, doors open. No fog. No passengers. The interior was empty and clean, white seats gleaming in the early morning light. Chike's jacket was still tied over the rearview mirror. His keys were in the ignition. His phone was in the cup holder, last call made at 6 p.m. the previous evening. Chike was not there. He has never been found. And every year, on the anniversary of that Thursday, the black bus appears at the motor park for exactly one night. Parked. Engine off. Doors closed. And if you press your ear against the glass of the driver's window, they say you can still hear him. Counting. 38. 39. 40. waiting for a number that never comes. One question for you. Chike had 3 rules. He kept all 3. So why didn't he make it home? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story gave you chills, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Poverty is deadly. So is forgetting the oldest rule.